Big club, big job. Will they be casting one eye, Danny, over Jurgen Klopp, bearing in mind he's won 2 Bundesliga titles?
I'm not sure. I think since Klopp has come into Liverpool, this is all about Champions League. You know, managers have won. You know, the squad that Bayern have, probably we could do a decent job of winning the Bundesliga. You know, it's a 3-team league, you know, at best, you know, most of the time. It's often a given that they're going to win the league or at least come second. That's not an issue. But it's Champions League. They lost heavily in midweek. I think it's a little bit unjust. There's obviously something behind the scenes that isn't quite right. Is it Ancelotti's style? There was talk at the end of last season. Would he be there? Would he stay? Would he go? This was definitely going to be his last season. Who are they going to, you know, who's going to replace him at the end of this season? The board have obviously decided after a heavy defeat to a fabulous strike force at PSG that enough's enough, and they're looking for a new manager.
But this is the equivalent, if they do come calling, isn't it, Simon, of, you know, Manchester United coming along to an English manager and saying, come on, we want you.
Yeah.
You'd have to be tempted.
That's taken into consideration by Munich, but it's not taken into consideration the league that you're managing in. The Premier League is the elite league in Europe.
But Bayern, one of the biggest clubs in the world.
Oh, I know they are. But the Bundesliga is a different league to the English Premier League. That's why these managers are gravitating to the Premier League. Don't forget, Carlo Ancelotti was in the Premier League. So I don't see that it is quite the same as Manchester United coming calling. I know the heritage of Bayern Munich. I know the identity of Bayern Munich, but I don't think it quite compares in league terms.
Guardiola was willing to give up Barcelona to go to Bayern Munich.
Well, I think that goes to the point that we were making off air about the manner in which that man manages, and
he also wanted to win the Champions League with somebody else, and he looked at the Bayern squad and thought, that's probably my best chance. You know, they had World Cup winners, international super. You know, their squad was littered with world-class players.
Possibly, and I also think there's a lot of politics in Catalonia. You know, I spend a lot of time in Spain, so I understand a lot of the Spanish league, and I think everybody has their time. Now, it was an interesting time when he went to Bayern Munich, because he went when they were right at the peak of their powers, just having won the treble, and he didn't actually replicate that. So you could say that he actually took Bayern Munich back a little bit. But the idea that someone like Klopp could be a fit for Munich, this guy, in my view, hasn't done his job at Liverpool. He's been in 2 finals that he's lost both. He's had 4 transfer windows. And in this day and age now, we've got this wonderful expression for managers where they don't get weeks and months, they get transfer windows to be judged by. He's had his transfer windows. I'm not so sure, with due respect to Liverpool, that the side is any more advanced than the team that Brendan Rodgers had. And so does that give Klopp the credentials to be considered to be going back to the Bundesliga, to the elite side in the Bundesliga? I'm not so sure he does.
To win the Champions League, Munich would sacrifice second in the league to win the Champions League. They would take that tomorrow, without a doubt. So they're going to be looking for Champions League experience. Who is the best? Who can win us the Champions League this season? I expect them still to qualify from their group, just because they've lost to PSG. I don't see that being a huge problem.
When you make that point about winning the Champions League and who's best qualified to take us, you know, the Champions League final and go and win it. I mean, the favourites in the betting at the moment, Thomas Tuchel, not in the same league as Klopp was at Dortmund, by the way. He won the German Cup, for goodness sake, and he's been linked last season with Southampton.
They do love a philosophy. Yeah. And I mean, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge is a big fan of Thomas Tuchel, and he likes the way that he plays, the way he does it. But equally, he's a little bit spiky with the board.
Which is one of the reasons that they brought in Carlo Ancelotti, because Guardiola had been spiky and they wanted a calmer influence, if you like, hence Ancelotti. So they'd be going back to that spiky, more difficult character.
Luis Enrique's out there. He's not a bad manager. I think he's available at the moment. He's got great experience with great players, would instantly have the respect of them.
Well, I'll throw another name in for you, and he's not going to be high in the betting at the moment because, I mean, Nagelsmann is there. He's 30 years of age, and I can't see that happening because they've always gone for experienced managers, Ancelotti, Guardiola, Jupp Heynckes, Louis van Gaal. They've always gone for experienced managers. They might go for him in years to come. I've got an experienced name to throw at you. You might laugh, but he's won a Champions League. He's been at Real Madrid. He's been at Napoli. He's been at Chelsea. He's been at Inter Milan. Yeah. And he has been at Liverpool. Rafa Benitez. Isn't he ideally qualified?
I think...
Jeff, you do know you live in the northeast. You've upset a lot of Newcastle fans right now.
I think that Benitez did very well at Valencia and obviously did very well at passages of time at Liverpool. He didn't do well when he stepped up to a super elite club in Madrid. So we're now talking about taking him back to a super elite club in Bayern Munich. I know that they think he walks on water in Newcastle. I think he's doing them a favour, and the first opportunity he has will go somewhere else.
He's too pragmatic for what Bayern will want, the style of play that they want to do.
Do you feel the style of play won't matter too much for them at the moment? They've just been beaten 3-0 by PSG, a side who a couple of seasons ago.
But you've got nearly £1 billion worth of forward line, to go against.
So are you saying you think he'll be too pragmatic?
Yeah, because I think the way that they play is not the style that Bayern want to play. They want to play open, attractive, amazing football. Rafa doesn't do that, and that's why he got sacked from Real Madrid ultimately, because he wanted to be defensive, and it doesn't work. I don't think they're going to look at Rafa Benitez for the job.
No, I think that's a given. They're not going to look at Rafa Benitez, but I think ultimately the equation is that they must have. I'm not so sure. I think that they're also third in the league in the Bundesliga, so they've got a double whammy. So they're not punching in their own division. They've just got tanked in the Champions League. By the way, as you quite rightly point out, by the Harlem Globetrotters of world football at this moment in time. So it's not inexplainable that they've gotten beaten in this fashion. But I would have thought if the argument was everything's about Champions League, then Carlo Ancelotti is a very experienced Champions League manager. If anyone was going to right this ship and still qualify...
But there was rumours last year that things weren't quite right at Bayern, weren't they, under Ancelotti? The players didn't quite like his management style, didn't quite work for him. Obviously, he lost his coach as well. Obviously went to Swansea, didn't help. So maybe there's just one or two things, and the players have just gone, actually, we're not quite buying into his philosophy anymore. And it's maybe at the start they've gone, OK, it's time to make a change.
I mean, is this such a great job anymore? Have we gone full cycle? Are Bayern now on the way down? In fact, it's German football on the way down. If you look at the results this week, all three of their sides in the Champions League lost, and all three of their sides in the Europa League lost. Are we seeing a change in the European order at the moment?
Well, I think there's a resurgence in Italy again, which is interesting. Obviously, we have this never-ending desire for the Champions League to manifest itself back into the UK, which we don't seem to get much of. I think that there is a natural level. The Spanish league with Barcelona and Real Madrid, they are still, to my mind, still probably the best two club sides in the world right now. I think Manchester City, well, they've been a work in progress in the Champions League for quite some time, and I think Guardiola has to deliver this sooner rather than later. So it'll be interesting to see how hard they punch into the Champions League this year, because I would expect Guardiola probably quite fancies his chances this year in the Champions League.
Carlo Ancelotti, of course, is now out of work. Might make one or two Premier League managers a bit nervous, mightn't it?
Every chance. I mean, it starts, a month away from silly season? 100-odd days to Christmas? Get to November and people start to panic, don't they? And there's a lot of clubs down there struggling at the moment. If somebody's available, big name, can attract big players in the transfer window, there might be a chairman that, is a little bit trigger happy.